Hello, hello, hello. Let me know if you can hear me. Had to reset up everything. So just got to make sure my end looks like everything should be going just fine. So let me know if you can hear me. Make sure input is right here. I have so many dang inputs. That one? It's either that one or this one. Let's test. Not that one. This one? No. Speakers. No, come on. Default? Oh. I don't know why I didn't do the default. Anyways, I should be all set. You guys hear me? All three of you. Hello. My name is Mr. Westford. Today I'll be talking to Repentant Rifleman. I don't know too much about him. I just put out the call to do some streaming with people on X. Just talking to some new people. Want to get Thaddeus back on here and want to get back into this. And I'll have you know, I got a quote for the studio and got the money locked and loaded. Had some financial obligations I had to get done with first. And now it's just got to get scheduled. So actually won't be out here lost in space. Won't be a wanderer anymore. So, I mean, how are we doing, everybody? Let me hop into this space and he just sent me the link. But wanted to touch base with y'all. How you doing, Nubrass? I'm going to be jumping in on his space and make sure, tell me if you guys can hear the audio on that, because I'm just going to kind of screen cap from there, I think. Okay, let me go to it.
Is what happened. We were there. We have records. You know, you got that. He's not just one guy. He's a bishop, but there's a heck of a lot of other guys that had that, and they tricked that guy too. I mean, they tripped him into saying, "Oh, I'm going to become Muslim," and they lied and said that he would, and he never did. And then they killed him for apostatizing from Islam and refusing to become a Muslim. Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Oh, hold on. I think there might have been some crossed wires here. We were supposed to be doing this space with Mr. Westford.
I'm here, but I'm not talking.
He's in here.
Is he?
Yeah.
I can't see. Oh, there he is. Hey.
It loads really weird.
Okay. Yep. Nope. There we go.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep. Goodness. Let's see. I sent the co-host invite. You want to hit him with one as well, babe?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it's not coming through.
And
I gotta love X spaces.
let me know what we should talk about. We kind of had a couple topics, but it's pretty open-ended. So
Hey, you're not gonna believe
we
this.
got him as a speaker.
You're not gonna.
hard to hear over the kid.
What's
Yeah.
up?
You're not going to believe this. I actually defended Marco Rubio. It was very hard.
Oh, I saw that. Yes. All right, Mr. Westford, can you speak at least?
I'm speaking. Hello, can you hear me?
See if we can't hear him.
I don't know how this works. Microphone. That's not the right one.
Pardon the technical difficulties as we get rolling here.
Hello, can you hear me?
X is clunky, if lovable, as ever.
Why can't I just be like full screen on this thing? Click.
Let's see.
I want to be like full screen. Guys, help me. I'm retarded.
Oh, let's.
There's a car.
We'll try canceling the co-host invite and sending another one.
Can I leave?
Hey, there we go.
Hello.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me?
Check again for another co-host invite, but I can hear you.
Oh, my wife wants me to do the other thumbnail. I can do. Let me show you guys the other thumbnail.
Oh boy,
Oh, no,
the GAN Cubs are contributing to the space already.
Rifleman, can you hear me?
I heard you for a second there, Wes.
What the heck? Do I have to press? I don't have...
Give it another shot here.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yep.
Okay,
So
input's gonna be mess it up.
as
All
we're
right.
kind of
That's
me-
too much, noise-wise. Way too much for headphones.
Yeah, too much kids. Too much kids.
sorry,
Let me show you this thumbnail.
didn't
real quick.
expect him to start screeching like that. Yeah. So
This is the one I
once
almost
we get
used.
rolling here, as
I got to this point
we
and I almost did it.
get the connection all worked out and everything, I was thinking it might be interesting to kind of start out by talking about some of the interesting stuff that's been going on here on X with people doing like live readings of books, and also to maybe touch.
That's what I almost used right there. He lives on the West Coast with me, so it's only 6 for him. Let me see. It might be because I'm doing audio input on this and that. I mean,
Still trying to get
you
our
should stop hearing me on that, but you should hear me
co-host
through
for the evening all sorted
stream.
out.
Let me stop this.
Let's see.
I'm gonna try to figure
All
out.
right, I'm gonna close the app and open it back up, babe. If you can keep it up and running on your end.
Oh my god.
M. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what you just said. I'm dealing with the kid.
I know. Keep it up and running on your end. I'm gonna close the app and reopen.
Well, I mean, my guess is that it's because I'm doing audio input through the same mic on StreamYard and trying to do it on X, and it's just getting glitchy from trying to do this same input twice. I don't know. Are you late? No, you're never late, dude. I mean, except when you show up the last like 2 minutes, but you still send me pesos, so definitely not late for me. Where'd he go? My freaking mic's in front of the screen. I can't see the chat. Yeah, right. I should have done it. I was planning on doing like a close up of me with that little kid's face, for the next stream, whatever. All right, slow boy. All right, you get some sleep. We're all. I don't know how everybody else is doing, but it's been time, right? Just a lot of emotions to process through. No, I understand. Audio is obviously we're just doing a space here. It's like the thing to think about. Well, I'm gotta wait for him to pop it on up again. Well, how are you guys doing? Everybody holding up? All right. I want it to be full screen. Can I not do that? Manage space? What's the heart do? Oh. Hello. So weird. I don't like this interface. Oh, dude, that sucks. Sorry to hear about that, Jonathan.
There you go. You've got your co-host invite, and I'm going to help relocate the 10-month-old because he seems to be discontent, but I'll be listening for you to do an audio check when you get a chance, sir.
Since I'm already in the space.
10 months old already?
How the heck do I even leave? I don't see a
Well, not yet.
Not quite?
Like 3 days.
share.
Ah, well, he has his freedom.
How do I?
Let's see. Oh, come on.
Well, it's just
Mr. Westford. You've got to. I don't know if it's
Hello,
just
can you hear
not
me?
wanting me to have 2 co-hosts or something. All right, I see you're a speaker now. Let's give it a shot. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Westford.
Hi, Penny. I love you.
Whoa.
That's pretty close to the hard floor.
It is. That is pretty close to the hard floor. We'll see if maybe I get the other one. Get her going here. All right. All right. Hey, all right. There we go. He got the co-host invite and accepted it. Now if we can just get audio from him, we're good. Oh man. Love X spaces. Oop, whoop. Hey, Papa. Yeah. Oh. Now you got things to tell the world. Yeah, I don't know if it's a StreamYard issue or what. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm looking at our message thread. Gotcha. It may just be a connection issue on your end, man. Yeah, X is just kind of janky sometimes. Usually I end up having to just close out of the app, do a force stop, and then restart. And if you're doing stuff on a computer, it may help to switch to your mobile device, because I know that
Where the heck is my
X doesn't sometimes play super well with desktop. So,
Okay.
dang. Yeah, I see that. Penny, I got that for Nico. Can you get on your
This is great
unicorn? Here, look.
This is what
Right here.
all 20 of y'all showed up for. Good evening. How are you? Click the invite, man.
Well, and we lost Theophan, so goodness, we're off to a rocky start here, man. I don't actually know if I've still got StreamYard or not.
Won't even let me message everybody. X is busted, dude.
Tell you what, I'll close out of this. You go ahead and fire one up, and I'll just join it, and you can invite me to be co-host, and we'll see if it works that way.
No, we're still trying X. We're still trying X
Sound good?
spaces. I guess I'm starting it. How do you even do that? Spaces.
Ooh.
Schedule. Poll. Grok. It ended. Just join my link. Yeah, well, we can all. You guys can hear them, and you guys can hear me, but they can't hear me. Well, I think he wanted me to start a space. I don't even know how to do that on desktop. On host, there's no like spaces option. I even do that on desktop. Create your space. Okay, it's like hidden in the more section. I guess I'm starting this, and we'll see if that does it. I don't know what that would change. What's this space for? We're just gonna have a conversation. You know, like a. You know what a conversation is. I think. I mean, that was what it was. That was the goal. I'm the host. It does not. Doesn't really work on freaking desktop. Do I have to go get my earbuds and have one ear in? Where the heck are my AirPod things? He says I'm in. I don't see him. I don't see him. Do I have to like? You cannot connect to this space since you're already in this space. What, bro? So stupid. How does this work? I don't understand. I don't understand how this freaking works, dude. It says I'm in it, but it's like I'm looking from the outside. Just need to invite to speak or co-host. Bro. I didn't think this would be a problem. What are we, like 20 minutes in? 15 minutes in trying to figure this out? Dude, I'm in space trying to figure out Twitter space. I mean, yeah, I was asking for people for a topic, so yeah, well, I guess we could talk about calzones. Don't matter to me. It's such a dumpster fire, bro. I don't know. I might have to go get if we're going to do spaces, I might have to do it on my phone because I know that works. I know that works. I guess I'll just grab my earbuds, go find where they are. Right back. Oh, no. Sounds like my earbuds are about to die. I mean, you guys, I'm just letting, this is all me letting you guys see behind the scenes, right? Seeing how the sausage is made. I don't know. We didn't talk about how it was going to work before. He made the space, invited me. He's like, okay, I should just be able to share it. But apparently, Twitter Spaces on desktop are just totally busted. I'll show you what I'm seeing. I don't know if y'all have done this before, but it says I've created a space. I got this little option stuff up here. Manage space. Like, I can click it, and I see something changing up there, but like, it's his name, but there's nothing else. I have my audio. I click on replies, and it shows up to this, and I click on this. It says I've already joined. I can change the name, but I can't control anything. What the heck is this? All right. Yeah, I mean he's got it because I mean I didn't even try this because I thought it just worked the same way it does on restart space. It often happens. Like what do you like? I have to close it and do it again. That's so busted. All right. Well, howdy, y'all. What have you guys been watching? Have you guys been stuck in the constant doom scroll, like me? Just the stoking the embers of wrath in your soul. Oh, do I have to do all that? Says I hear ya. What in the world? What do you mean? Yeah. Yeah, the Sam Hyde one was really good. Freaking St. Paisios name dropped. And I was thinking, because they said, you know, because the St. Paisios quote was that God takes allows you to die, or like has ordained your death for a certain time for the best possible chance for you to be saved. Whether if he lets you live if you have more time to repent, and he lets you die, or ordains your death. If you would have gone on to lose your salvation or whatever you want to say, and they're like, I don't. That sounds like mumbo jumbo. I was like, well, I mean, that's just the second part of the quote, but even the second part, I still could rationalize that out with Charlie's situation because he was, I wasn't a big Charlie Kirk fan. I was one of the people that thought he was just not base enough or whatever. I thought he was the kind of person I would have listened to in like 2017, and apparently the last like month he was kind of coming online more with some of the the rabbit holes we've gone down, and maybe why he's dead, likely why he's dead, and kind of his whole career was based off of Zionism, right? And I don't know if that would have made him go dark mode or whatever, but it's it's God's providence now, so I don't know. Still no speaker option, bro. Did you try this link, bro? I can put this one up. Oh, wait. This. Where'd it go? Come back. There it is. Well, you guys look at that while I figure this out. Right. Rifleman has entered the studio. Hello.
Yeah. Hey. All right.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
All right. I'm doing good. Doing good. Yeah. It really is a shame that we couldn't get things working on X over there. It's an interesting crowd that shows up. Definitely some different folks than what you get over here at YouTube.
Yeah.
And it occurs to me that I don't know that I've actually gotten my YouTube switched over to what I've been using as my name on X. So hopefully that doesn't cause any confusion for anybody. But,
Yeah, it still says Repentant Rifleman on here.
Okay, sweet. Goodness. All right, man. Well, hey, yeah. So, did I miss anything while you were getting everything sorted out on your end, or where are we at?
No. The only thing I really brought up of substance, other than I was just mostly troubleshooting, trying to get it to work, was
Right.
the Sam Hyde quote. Sam Hyde had a quote of Saint Paisios on his show.
Interesting.
It was something, I'm paraphrasing, but that God ordains your death for the proper time for each person. So if you are like,
stop, that's not funny,
in a good place spiritually, he'll allow your death so that it'll be for your salvation. And if you need more time to repent, he'll allow you more time to live. And he was relating that to Charlie Kirk, and Sam Hyde was like, "Wow, I don't know how. Like, what are you saying? Like Sam, like that Charlie was going to become evil or something?" And I made the point, well, if he was starting to delve into the JQ stuff, and that was like kind of his whole career, that I mean potentially could have become really embittered or something. But
yeah,
I think even just the first part of that quote was the relevant part, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, in all fairness, though, it is a heterodox guy making a comment about another heterodox guy using something from a tradition that he is not a part of. So you never know what whether he actually even got what St. Paisios was actually trying to say there. And I think you could take it either way. You could either take it as him saying, hey, Charlie's good, he's in heaven, God would have let him live longer if he needed to become Orthodox to get there, or you could take it, a couple other ways. So I don't know, man.
And I don't know the guy that brought it up. I don't know his position at all, if he was heterodox or what. But it's just like a call in.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that Charlie had a priest on, a month or two ago or something like that. So it was definitely on his radar to inquire.
Yeah, well, and I mean, his wife apparently is like a pretty faithfully practicing Roman Catholic, which, no shortage of reasons over there to be looking to the east and thinking of a change. And I know that he probably had some folks in his orbit that were kind of pointing him in our direction. End of the day, I think that folks who get too wrapped up in all this stuff about, oh, well, can we call him a martyr? Oh, how much do we need to make a big deal that he was heterodox or, what have you? I just don't know that any of it is particularly fruitful or helpful to any of the people who are listening to it. Say what good you can about the guy. If you see somebody trying to say that he was more than he was, or something that he wasn't, then maybe privately correct that. But it certainly is not going to do any good to anybody to be, making a big stink about it in public with people that they maybe don't have any sort of established relationship with. They're just arguing with random people on the internet and doing it about some right. And if you're going to do it about something, at least maybe don't make it about some poor guy's death that's not even in the dirt yet, Like, I don't know, call me crazy, call me old fashioned, but I think that the time to be saying anything other than what you admired about somebody is probably not while their grieving wife is still trying to get a hold of herself and her kids,
Right. So what's I mean, this is a big question, but like the reactions you've seen, like, I mean, on the left and the right, and I feel like it's always strange when people, politicize stuff, and especially with Charlie Kirk's death, like it's a political murder, so it's like political by nature, so you can't.
It is.
You can't help but politicize it, and you'd hope that something good comes from it with the political change. Like they say, never. I mean, maybe it's too Machiavellian or whatever, but they say don't never waste a tragedy, never waste a crisis.
Oh yeah, never let a good never let a good crisis go to waste. Yeah.
Right.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I really, really do despise that type of thinking. I get it. It's very utilitarian. I'm sure that people will be making hay over this dude's death for longer than I will probably still be alive. Which is, kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, being a public figure, I do think there is probably some validity to the idea that he would have wanted his wife and some of the people around him to continue his work.
Right.
So the question becomes one of what that work was in reality and what the real trajectory was. Is that something that anybody can actually faithfully carry out in a way that does honor his legacy without it just being them co-opting it to turn it into something else? But
it's also a question there because the last month seems like his trajectory was changing. So like where
drastically
take that trajectory? Because the reason I never really got into him much was I felt like in my head like Zionist and neocon are just kind of synonymous. So I had listened to him a couple of times and just was like, okay, I kind of get it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I don't think that you're the only one either. There's a lot of folks that were kind of in that camp, and I hate that that's kind of what it has to come down to these days. But you really do have to sort of take with a few extra grains of salt anything that somebody's saying to you if they are not realistic on some of those issues in particular. but not everybody's there yet. Not everybody's got it that figured out, and so there does have to be some grace for our friends on the right who maybe aren't with us on everything, but they're on us with a lot of things that matter. And just to pivot a little bit, because everybody's talking about Charlie right now,
Yeah.
and great guy. What happened to him was terrible, but just to kind of have literally anything else to talk about, it does kind of relate also to some of the stuff we're seeing with. I don't know your thoughts on Father Josiah Trenum, but he's trying to do this big marriage
thing.
conference.
I
Yeah.
feel. I mean, I had probably the common reaction when I saw it, and then I kind of eased back in my thinking of, well, I mean, I don't know. I didn't look too much into it. If I don't know if there's probably
Mhm.
should. I imagine from what I know about Father Josiah Trenum, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt that there's no like common prayer with the heterodox or anything like that. If it's just these are things that we and the heterodox both hold in common, and we're just going to talk about them. I don't
Yeah.
see a huge issue with that, but I mean, I see a lot of people pushing back. I saw people like trying to talk to his bishop or whatever, and I'm like, I think that might be a little too far. Probably a
Well,
bit
I
too
mean,
far.
at the end of the day, if he's in the right, then he'll be vindicated by that. And, hopefully the bishop doesn't just like leave it on red, but actually says something back and tells
Right.
him to back off. Or if he does need to be corrected, he'll be corrected. And,
Yeah.
I've never heard anything about the guy to indicate that he wouldn't have the integrity to listen to his bishop if something was said to him about it.
I mean, that also comes to, I have a list of like topics we can fall back on. And one is
Yeah,
like,
sure.
what does a coalition of the right look like? Because I mean, as Orthodox, we're pretty minority. I know we're growing very rapidly. Like even just this last Sunday, there was a dozen new people. My parish has some 50 something catechumen. We just baptized like 18 people. We have another baptism coming up. Like we're growing, but we're still pretty small minority across the nation. But
Right.
there are things that what does a coalition with people who are similar to, because a coalition has to be with people that have certain things that are aligned and other things that we don't have crossover with, right? That like, or else you wouldn't even be allies. You'd be the same party, right?
Right. Exactly.
So if we're going to have a coalition, have political power to help, push the nation in a way that's beneficial for our families, for our communities, for our churches and all that. I see parallel with potentially what Father Josiah Trenum is doing with that marriage, like conference or whatever. And I don't think like Moldy
Mhm.
Apple here is saying Father Josiah isn't dumb. I feel like
No, he's
it's
not.
innocent unless people see like, oh, hey, this was something that happened that I at the conference I see that's over the line or something. But I think the conference itself, while a lot of people had red flags about it, I just, to me, it's
Yeah.
not enough to be concerned or whatever yet.
Right. Well, here's the thing. You're never going to see Father Josiah going to Gavin Ortland's church
Right.
for a service. You're never going to see Father Josiah receiving the Eucharist from Gavin Ortland, who believes that it is only bread and grape juice, not even wine. Or maybe he is a wine guy. I don't know. That's not going to happen. And so, like you said, a coalition is a different kind of animal than a single party pursuing something as such. And I think that that's something that people kind of lose sight of. When you're in a coalition with somebody, it doesn't necessarily mean that you guys are completely going to agree on everything, nor should it, because as you said, then you might as well just, get under one big umbrella in a
Right.
more, long-term sense. And so, especially as the tiny minority that we are, I love the energy of some of these guys that are already beating the drums about how America is going to be an Orthodox country in our lifetime and this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool. Like God could do that. But the simple facts on the ground are that we're not there yet. We're not anywhere close to there. And if you want to get close to there, you've got to do more than a bunch of like rah posting. You have to
bunch
actually
of schizo edits.
right. As cool as the aesthetic can be in an edit or whatever, I often find that sort of thing just sort of rings hollow with me. Not because there's not power in imagery, or that there's not something good there. But I really do think that some of these guys just have an unrealistic view of things. It is important for us to make sure that our separated brethren, whatever heterodox group they might be a part of, are aware that they are just that. We love them. We would love to have them come to the table with us at the only table that matters, but we're still distinct, we're still separate, and cannot have a nominal union
Right.
and have true sacrament, have the church. And so that means that by necessity, if you want to accomplish some really good things in the United States or in the world, you have to be willing to work with some people and be able to cultivate those relationships. And here's the thing, if we decided to pull an Amish and just disappear out into the middle of nowhere, and we're not doing any kind of evangelism, we're not welcoming anybody into our services, we completely cut ourselves off and delete all our social media, maybe that could work out. But I really do think that that would be more detrimental to the church and to the gospel than just about anything else we could
the
do.
country. I've been reading.
Oh yeah.
If I can pronounce a Romanian name, Justintinu Zelia Codrinu. He's like
Oh, okay.
the Romanian Hitler is kind of what he's is portrayed as in Western history, whatever. But he was like a Romanian student that saw the Jews taking over his country and taking over all the institutions and everything, and he led like somewhat peaceful. I mean, there was like fights, and then they ended up actually. I'm like halfway through his like biography now. He ended up planning some like political assassinations, and then there was a rat, and they ended up going to jail, but they ended up getting acquitted. So and some of those people in his group and I believe they're saints. Some of them. I mean, I know people that have like taken their saints' names after some of the people within his coalition. And
Right.
it's interesting because he for years like spent just time trying to work things illegally and just through the systems and just through the universities, through the young people. And he only went to violence after like years of seeing no other choice or whatever. And other than that, it was like destroying communist propaganda and taking down like communist flags and replacing them with Romanian flags and things like that. And like peaceful protests, blocking, like barricading, whatever. But after they spent time in prison, they refocused their group to be more like getting young men together and holding each other like very strictly accountable to the faith, to orthodoxy and to Christian morality. And they would point out flaws and sins they saw in each other, and they would basically like have like group confession, where it's kind of picture like a men's group, but they're like they see that their people group, that who they are as a people will be gone in a few generations if they don't do something. And they saw that their personal moral fabric was what would change the nation. And that's what they focused on.
Yep. And it'll do a lot more for you than an assassination,
Right.
Like right now, in the wake of what has happened to Charlie Kirk or to Irina, or, some of the other senseless acts of violence that have been happening across the country, nobody is flocking to those causes. Nobody is going, oh yeah, like the people that literally just, murdered a father and husband who was specifically known for debating people in such a charitable manner that it really was almost more of a conversation most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, we just killed that husband and father. Yeah, that's who I want to be riding with.
Picture if they listened to a Jay debate, how they'd feel about him.
Oh gosh, yeah. Which, that that does kind of make one question. Don't get me wrong, I love Jay. I don't know that I would have made it into the church if it hadn't been for him disabusing me of some of my faulty ideas in a manner that was somewhat jarring. Some people need a good kick in the pants, and I got part of that from him. But that said, there's there's definitely times where people are able to say, hey, look at what Jay said, and you can't say he didn't say it. You can't say that he didn't go there. And it's, man, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes trying to ride
Right.
that line
Well,
between
I have
comedian and
sympathy.
commentator.
Yeah, there's that as well. But I mean, like, I do have sympathy with him having those conversations over and over and just like hearing the same responses each time. I feel like I would go mad.
Oh yeah,
Just
for
just
sure.
being like, I've explained this fallacy or whatever 10 times this week, and I've explained it to you twice, and you're not listening to me. Like, I could understand frustration.
Right. Right. But, it is kind of what you sign up for. If you're going to do something that public, um, there are how many billion of people in the world, trillion, whatever. The
You're going to be
chances that
having that
you're
conversation a lot.
exactly, there's always going to be somebody who hasn't seen your video from 5 years ago that you're telling them, oh, just go look at my catalog. Well, they're not going to. They're asking you a question here and now, and this is your opportunity to interact with this person, or you are just gonna, miss it. And that's a choice that he has to make every single time. I get it. But it's like I said, I'm glad I'm not in that position. Who knows? Maybe I end up kind of getting more in that direction if things kind of build up on X or wherever. But I'm certainly not looking for it. I'm more in it just to have some good conversations with folks. The wife and I are sort of geographically isolated out here at 29 Palms. It's in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And
Okay.
so it's tougher for us to have, in-person stuff. And our brand of Southern hospitality and, having kind of an open door policy and everything. I hate to say it, but especially with the younger guys, the freaking COVID kids that, maybe didn't get all of their high school in person. They just don't take an invite to dinner the same way as people from my generation.
How
And
old are you? And what state are you from? The South?
yeah, I'm from Southwest Missouri and born in '96, so just the very tail
Okay.
end of the millennials.
Yeah, same.
I still
I'm 95.
remember. Okay, so then you remember growing up with the internet, so to speak, not growing up with it already being there, but like seeing it develop and roll out as a kid, like not having a computer in your house at some point,
I remember
which is
getting the
wild.
family computer. I remember AOL. I'd get on there. I had to figure out the password, and then I would play like Nickelodeon games. And then by the time I
Yep.
was in like 5th grade, like MySpace was out. And then I didn't see a smartphone until I was probably in 8th grade or whatever.
Oh yeah, the Verizon Razor or Motorola Razor was the thing for a while. I remember when my parents got their first one of those instead of a like more Nokia style.
Cricket or something.
Oh yeah, that the Razor was a big deal, flat folder. So yeah, no, and that's one of the things that I was thinking would have been kind of neat to get into tonight is seeing how some of the different generations have responded to orthodoxy, or
Yeah.
the one that I was really hoping to dig in on when we were trying to get it going on X was the recent issue of AI generated quote unquote orthodox books.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yep, it's been making the rounds
Is it
that
just like,
people
is
are
it
having.
translations? Is it
No,
total?
some of it may be translations, but I've been hearing that some of it is like straight up fabrications.
Wow.
Yeah, well, what it is like AI is becoming a real problem for any sort of content creation. Unless you're having like a full-on spontaneous conversation with somebody like we're doing here, anything that's pre-produced and canned, you don't really have a great way of knowing without looking pretty closely if it's legit or not. And so that's affecting everything from our good friend Will Anselm is a guy who does some narration and that kind of thing. And he says that right now there's issues on Audible with people's voices being used with AI against their will and without their sometimes they're not even notified, and somebody just hits them up later and says, oh hey, I saw that you narrated another book, and then they have to go to all the trouble to say, no, that wasn't me, and
Kinda
I'm
weird.
not getting paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
I mean, it is pretty easy to you just have to have like a clip of somebody. You can do an AI can do a filter. The children are out of hand, man.
yep, it's bedtime and everybody's cranky. So
Oh, I gotcha. I've got two kids myself, two daughters.
oh, gotcha. Well, we've got 3 kids and another one on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, due December 25th. So oh goodness.
Be it's a pretty good birthday. Well, it's I feel like it's a double-edged sword because it's can get overshadowed, but
Yeah, we'll see. Personally, I've never really cared much for birthdays for a variety of reasons, but I get why some people are really into it. Oh goodness, we're getting little man situated here.
it's all good.
Yeah. But goodness, yeah, there's kind of a rising tide of this AI slop, and part of the problem is with these massive, waves of converts. You've got people who are, they haven't adopted the phronema. Everybody always says that, but it's like they're not spun up enough yet in their prayer life and in their familiarity with scripture and the lives and writings of the saints to be able to even begin to distinguish between something that was actually genuinely the work of genuine work of the faith versus something that's just completely out there. And I certainly would put myself in that category. I'm going to have to be more careful and ask my priest, ask my ask my godfather, hey, is this legit or not? And thankfully
Yeah.
I've got good people to turn to, but imagine being, you know, some poor guy that's like inquiring into orthodoxy. You haven't found a parish yet, and you have this book that purports to be written by some Orthodox saint that you've never heard of, and you've never heard of hardly any of them, so you don't know any better. And the next thing you know, you're being, led around by the
Misled.
nose.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Mhm.
not just that. I mean, there's people who have some bone to pick with orthodoxy for whatever reason, and they make like fake X accounts, call themselves Orthodox, and they go and
Mhm.
they're really
Mhm.
inflammatory. I've seen that like a dozen times, and like that. I mean, either this guy is one of those like catechumen that everybody talks about, or they're actually a Catholic or whoever. I mean,
Mhm.
it'd be really surprising me if this is actual catechumen.
Right, right. Well, and that's the thing is you also have this issue though of how many people are out there, shooting their mouth off. I try to be kind of careful not to get too into the weeds about, oh yeah, orthodoxy says this or teaches that,
Right.
because I don't have any sort of like special blessing to teach anything. Some of this like more surface level commentary of like, hey, did you see this thing going on in, Orthodox communities online or in person? That's one thing, but I'm not going to sit here and try to argue too much with somebody unless it's like pretty basic stuff.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, Christ is
Catechesis kind of
fully
stuff.
God, like, right. And it's interesting because there's a lot of people who, and I was probably more this way earlier on. I don't know if you've ever heard the term cage stage Calvinist.
I have. Could you tell for the audience?
Okay, gotcha. So it is not uncommon for people who are first getting into Calvinism and they didn't get raised
Yep.
that way or weren't super spun up on it when they were a kid to go through what they call the cage stage, where because they've figured it out and it makes sense to them, they go around and they beat everybody over the head with it. And it's usually not even like a great representation of Calvinism itself, but a lot of the times it is some of the logical conclusions that are less pleasant about Calvinism. Right. Oh, hey, your baby that didn't make it to the baptismal font didn't make it to the baptismal font because they were not part of the elect. Oh, you're doubting your faith? Well, if you're having doubts, then you must not be part of the elect because you should have assurance. This guy who faithfully served and ministered for decades slipped up or has walked away from the faith. Oh, then he was never saved in the first place. And it's all this
Right.
super hard
That's
binary.
the Schrodinger's once saved, always saved problem.
Yes, indeed, which is a hilarious way to look at it. But here, I got you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of converts go through that. I know I definitely had higher zeal or whatever going into it, and when I was a catechism, it was just like 45-minute like morning and evening prayers, and then like after I was baptized, that came down to like, well, this is really hard, and then I had to build it back up and everything, and
right, and that's honestly kind of where we're at. And again, that geographic challenge that we're in, which thankfully a good friend from St. Mary of Egypt Orthodox Church out in Kansas City, one Alex Brasco, has rolled out the Faithful Centurion website and has gotten together with Father George to bring back a podcast that I think used to be syndicated through Ancient Faith, but it went away and you can't find it on their site anymore, called War Priest, that's specifically for like Orthodox service members. And his new Faithful Centurion nonprofit is to provide resources for us to be able to like learn how to perform Typica, to
what was it called
have
again?
It's called the Faithful Centurion.org, I think. But it's going to have all kinds of great resources. If you have any veteran buddies or military buddies that are Orthodox or are looking into it, definitely point them that direction, because it's going to be resources geared specifically for them. It's still kind of getting off the ground. So right now it's mostly the podcast, but eventually the goal is to also kind of help provide, icons and other necessary material elements that you would need to be able to conduct services and whatnot.
Okay,
But,
this is
yeah,
so I
man.
have a friend that was baptized with me, who was in the Navy, and he got kicked out for not taking the vaccine, and he got really black-pilled on the military and the United States government as a whole, and he kind of felt like he was, serving for the, the whore of Babylon or whatever. And now
Goodness.
he's I mean, I've seen him mellow out a lot, but yeah, he definitely went into like a doomer kind of thing. So, and I mean, this sounds like the opposite of that, where like there is a place for, I mean, obviously us as a country should have the ability to defend ourselves with the military, right? Like, what's your thoughts on somebody who is Orthodox and is like anti-America or anti-Enlightenment, whatever that you could say, whatever they say, it's founded on deists and messianic principles, whatever. Therefore, we can't support it in any ways.
That's a great topic, and I do have to tread a little bit lightly, being active duty and whatnot.
Well, I mean,
like,
obviously, don't say anything.
None of what I'm saying here represents the views of the military, the DoD, or the United States government, obviously. But me personally, I have some of those qualms. I'm not thrilled with the fact that we are a quote unquote representative democracy. I don't think that that's functionally or practically what we actually are, for one. But two, I'm not entirely convinced that that is either a particularly moral or ethical form of government compared to, say, some sort of monarchy. But I'm also a realist enough to recognize that, hey, you got to grow where you're planted. And this is something that there's a Orthodox motorcycle club that maybe I patch in with down the line. Right now I'm basically in a hang around phase, and they use the rule of Saint Benedict as kind of part of their guiding principles. And one of the aspects of Saint Benedict and his teaching was this idea of like growing where you're planted. I forget what it's called, but there's this concept of like you're going to stay wherever you get ordained or tonsured or whatever,
Right.
if you're a priest or a deacon, to the end of your life.
Right.
It's
Well,
a certain type
my
of oath.
understanding is the bishops can be like, you're going over there now. You
Mhm.
are going to go to this other state or this mission or wherever.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know how that all cashes out, because it's kind of a Western Rite thing that's not as common or fleshed out for the Orthodox Church. But especially on the lay level, I think there's something to be said for it. This idea of like, okay, you know, I don't live over there. I might think the grass is greener wherever else in the world or in whatever other situation. But God has put me here now, and he has a purpose for me here and now. And so I need to do whatever it is that he has in store for me to glorify him, to bring people to the gospel, to bring people to the church. And, you know, if I end up moving down the line, cool, great. Maybe that's something I want or look forward to. But to not be so consumed with our perception of somewhere else as being better in some way that we don't focus on the very real and present need to do the work that is right in front of us. You know, like I remember when I was a kid, I grew up Southern Baptist, and my grandparents, they were missionaries to East Africa for like 36 years. And so I had this vision in my head that I was going to grow up and I was going to be a preacher and I was going to go to the other side of the world and bring Jesus to these people that really needed it over there. But was I living in a Christ-like manner where I was?
Right. I mean, I had all these kind of conversations as a Protestant too. And I remember having all my friends go on these mission trips and stuff. And I went on a 10-day trip to Haiti, and I would hear people, especially like by the time I was like a senior in high school, like we should probably be evangelizing in our backyards too. Like people have this urge like, oh, it's better over there. The opportunities over there, and they're not looking at everything that's in front of them that they can use, right? That they could do. And I think
Right.
that points out, because I was actually having this conversation with a catechumen yesterday about like the difference of like evangelical outreach, and like a lot of evangelicals, it's like, are you saved? Okay, let's do the sinner's prayer. Now you've got the badge, you're saved, and now you go and do it. But there's no actual,
Right.
They don't have to be. There's no prerequisite of like you're on the path. With us,
Right.
it's you're walking the path, you're living the life, you're part of the community, you've been grafted in, you're soaking up nutrients from the roots and all that, and that's kind of a prerequisite to do anything like that. And maybe God has called you to do some evangelical work where you are doing missions or you're doing outreach or a ministry or something like that, but it has that prerequisite of you're living the Christian life. And
Right.
even with that, you may or may not be called. Like you may not feel that calling, or that like, oh, this thing keeps coming up and I'm mulling it over, or I feel called or whatever. And you also have a priest that's like, nope, you're not ready. Or, hey, you think you're
Right.
not ready, but this is what your obedience or whatever.
Right. Well, and people get this idea of a calling in their heads that's perhaps overly romanticized.
I agree.
And it's not just Protestants and evangelicals, it's Catholics, it's our guys. Where, especially in the Orthodox sense, I see a lot of dudes, especially the young dudes who aren't married yet, that they see a couple cool stories about Saint Moses the Black or whoever, and then suddenly it's like, yep, I'm called to be a monk. Are you though?
I mean, go be a
Do we-
novice.
Right. Like, do we need more of them? Absolutely. But I would venture a guess to say that the vast majority of the young men that they get this gung-ho thing, it's just like the young Baptist kid that's going to grow up to go share the gospel on the other side of the world and is forgetting about his own backyard. And I think that this is one of the really good things about the Orthodox view of marriage that I hope comes out at Father Josiah's conference, so that there can be some exposure for the guys that show up there and gals that are not Orthodox.
Right.
Is
Because you
this
think there
idea
have to be like overlap, but also things that clearly don't, right? Within our
right?
framework.
Exactly. And so I'm hoping that they get some exposure, one, to the fact that monasticism is alive and well. It is still a thing that's out there, and it's a beautiful
Right.
but intense path to salvation. But then for them to also hear, okay, this is a real thing, this is a good thing, but marriage is also for your salvation. Marriage is also a cross for you to pick up. And sometimes your spouse picks up that cross with you, and sometimes your spouse is that cross. But you almost always have to assume that you yourself are. Yes, I know. I know. Yeah, smirk harder. They'll see it through my microphone. Um, my
Yeah.
wife's
I
over
mean,
there.
it's I mean, it's hard. It's I mean, I've
It
been married
is.
for 6 years now. I just turned 30, and I've known my wife for a decade, so I've known her for a third of my life, and it's I mean, it's not, yeah, it's
Mm,
not easy. It's a lot of work, and
it
there's a lot
is.
of like just having a hard, because I don't know, I'm not a very confrontational person by nature, and there's just been a lot of
Mm,
times like I have to, I finding that balance of, because I stonewall when I'm mad or whatever, and
hmm
I just like, I want to say anything I don't mean, and I don't want to do anything that hurt you, so I'm just going to be quiet. But then finding that time to actually force myself to talk when something's not going
Right,
well or
right.
whatever, and it's yeah, you just having that space where you can actually meet. Because even when
hmm
I'm doing that, I'm stepping over my words, and I feel like I'm not saying it right or whatever. It's not easy.
Right. Well, and then having kids is just more of the same, but in different ways. And that's been one of the things that I've seen a bit with some of the converts. My wife and I were not this way, but some of our young friends kind of have been, where they're coming into Orthodoxy, and part of the baggage that they just can't seem to shake is actually this, mentality that's very common uh, here in the States among younger people of, well, I'm not going to get married until I can have a $50,000 wedding and a
Yep.
$70,000, honeymoon and a house already paid for, but I'll just live with this person. And then, thankfully they usually get disabused of that fairly
Well, it's
easily.
also not just a convert thing. I've heard of some
Right.
guys that are trying in the dating pool right now, talking to like, Russians
hmm
that are cradle, and they have this materialism bent where
Oh
they
yeah.
like the first date. They're like, "How much do you make? How much would our wedding be?" And they're like,
Right.
um, "I can't
Well,
take you
the
out to fancy
thing
restaurants every night, lady."
Right. The thing that gets me though is it seems like it's easier for people to break out of that than it is for them to break out of the anti-natalist programming.
Yeah.
Right? Because, saying, "Hey, I'm going to get with this woman and we're going to struggle together, and that might mean a lot of nights of macaroni and cheese or rice and beans or what have you, but we're gonna make it work together." There's a very big difference, especially in people's minds, between doing that with a consenting adult who's there for the ride versus bringing children in who don't have a say in being born, who don't have a say in how things go nearly as much. And then, oh, I can't have a kid until I can provide XYZ for them,
Right.
as if we could provide anything. All of it is either provided ultimately by the grace of God or it isn't.
And I mean,
And if
most of
it,
it is, I mean, some of it's like you need to develop skills and stuff, but a lot of it's just opportunity. And opportunity comes and goes, and you have a really
mm-hmm,
good paying job, and you get laid off, and you're searching, and now you take a lower paying job. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly for me to hear these young ladies asking like, what's your income to these guys that are like 19, 20, 22 or whatever. Like,
right.
I mean, it's going to drastically fluctuate over the next decade.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's one of those interesting things. One of the crossovers that I have seen a bit of, in the various like media platforms and social media platforms, is that of the rising tide of orthodoxy and the manosphere. And it's interesting because as twisted as it is in the way that it sometimes is used, the manosphere started out as a bunch of guys comparing notes on dating and
Hmm.
observing, and then bringing together all the data from how things were going on these dates. And I was around, maybe I'd say 7 to 10 years ago is when a lot of it went down, where there was this split within the manosphere between those who could see that the diagnostic tool did what it was made to do and wanted to go use it to sleep with as many women as
Right.
possible,
That Roosh
and
V before he
those
converted.
versus those who decided, hey, I'm going to use this to go find a quality woman and start building a legacy. And a few of the guys that were on that second side of the equation, myself included, have become Orthodox, Roman Catholic, what have you. And so they're moving in a better direction with it. And I think that, they kind of bring it on themselves sometimes. They get into this room with these guys that um, some of them are more realistic, but there are definitely some, especially the ones who are trying to sell you something, that'll tell you, oh, yeah, if you're not making six figures, it's a you problem, 100%. And it's totally doable and everybody can do it. And, they have these ideals that are very materialistic.
Right.
And so the guys, they get sucked into that just as much as the ladies that are like wanting that, comfy life of a trophy wife. You've also got the guys that see their value as being more bound up in their ability to create that type of persona and
Buy you a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Did you see that one clip? I think it was Fresh and Fit. The guy from the host from that was like taking Q&A, and a guy showed up, was like, I followed your advice for like 6 years. I slept with tons and tons of women, and it destroyed my soul. I'm married now. I've got kids, but I've got all this baggage because I listened to you and I followed your advice. And the guy was like, what do you mean? You won. You got what you wanted, right? You got a lady. That was because of me. You got kids, like, and now you got all this experience. Like, you should be celebrating. He's like, no, you are leading people to hell. It turned out all right for me. I've got a family, I've
in
got
spite
kids,
of
but like,
you.
right. But now I have to work through all this stuff that I have to deprogram myself from you. And I still have all this baggage I'll never get rid of.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's one of those things, like, there's times that I miss some of the guys. I was affiliated with one of the maybe better known groups that does that kind of stuff. And the dues just kept going up and up, and I get it, that's their business model, that's their decision. But it got to a point where it just felt like it was a lot. And I was looking around, and there was this kind of have your cake and eat it too mentality that, oh yeah, like, we're over here, we're the legacy building types. But it's totally fine if we just keep the other guys around.
Right. Which
And
you guys don't have anything in common, really, other than like some like a playbook or whatever, but they're totally different
right.
goals. And then the hypocrisy of like, you shouldn't sleep with low quality women that have a high body count, but you can have as high body count as you want because you're a king or whatever.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, and to be fair, it wasn't always quite that mentality, and you can't just always close off. And this kind of brings us full circle back to one of the points we were at earlier of like, you don't necessarily want to close church to the sinners, because that's who it's
Right.
really for.
Right.
And you have to remember that you're a sinner too. You're right there with those guys. To some degree, in some fashion, and you're probably worse than you think that you are. They're probably not as bad as you think they are. And keeping that mentality can be tough. But you have to kind of meet people in that way if there's going to be any chance of you actually helping bring them to Christ. It's really not the job of every single one of us to be going around being the one that thinks it's their God-given mission to give everybody that kick in the seat of the pants that gets them out of whatever they're into that's causing them trouble or keeping them from Christ.
Right. I mean, there's time and place, and like I said, I wasn't trying to insinuate at all that
no,
those people should be kept out or whatever. But
yeah,
I mean, there's time. I have friends that have stuff I radically disagree with, and like most of the time, I feel that it's not my place to say anything, and that they probably know at least somewhat my position. And if they wanted to know more, they could ask. I mean, sometimes like it's
Exactly.
egregious enough. Where I'm like, I have to say something, but that's not even half the case. Is probably people in
Oh
my own
yeah.
life.
Yep. 100%, man. And I really do wish those guys the best. I hope that they continue to thrive and do well. But it would be interesting to see if some of that could get, shaken out a little bit better as time goes on. Where I think Andrew Wilson, whatever criticisms people may have of the guy, um, he definitely gets in there with some of these guys, like,
Yeah.
and on these podcasts that nobody else is getting into, and giving these people a taste, giving them just that rock in the shoe. And he's never saying, "Oh yeah, it's totally okay for you guys to do what you do." He's not like, it
Condoning
is
anything.
bizarre. It's bizarre to me that they even bring him on. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna have this guy come on here and tell all of you that you're degenerates and show you point by point everything that this worldview and this way of living are going to do, and how demons are using it to destroy you and to destroy the people around you through you. And you're just going to bring him back over and over and over again, even if they're pointing at him and just chuckling behind the scenes and having a laugh at the guy. He's still there. Like,
Yeah.
I know that there's people who have seen him on those podcasts, and that has been the thing that got them inquiring.
Yep.
Like,
I mean, I know people at my parish that Andrew Wilson was the first person I mean, it's someone I know who's a catechumen. The first interaction at all with Orthodoxy was Andrew Wilson, and like glory
yep.
to God that these people are platforming him. And I don't know if it's because you could argue that Andrew Wilson's in the manosphere. He's definitely not on the degen sleep around with everybody side. And I've
Mhm.
had my mind changed a little bit with the manosphere stuff because I was just like seeing all the MGTOW people. I was like, this is just like male feminism. You guys are silly larpers or whatever. But now I actually my perspective was lacking in that I haven't been in the dating pool for a decade. And
Right. Yeah.
even then, like I met my wife in person and I didn't have to do like Tinder or whatever. So like, I don't like people ask me like, what's your advice for dating? I'm like, I don't know if any of it applies to your situation. Like,
Right. Yeah. No, that's huge that you're able to see that. Because, I met my wife, you know, we're married 5 years, met her 2019. And our journey to marriage was pretty atypical. We decided to just vet the ever living tar out of each other. We had both been burned somewhat recently at the time. Neither of us wanted a relationship. Neither of us wanted to get married, but we just kind of knew that each other were the person. And so we were like, okay, what's every possible reason for us not to get married?
mm,
Go. And it's worked out great so far. We love each other. She puts up with me, which is great. But like, even then, even just that few short years ago, the whole landscape has changed radically. Um, because again, we've got these COVID kids, man,
yep.
that they just, oh man, I
I mean,
love
I've been
them.
told by young people like I shouldn't share me and my wife's story because we kind of have a idyllic love story. Like we met and
Mm,
we were long distance for like 2.5 years before I moved up here, and um, like yeah, it's just kind of like how it used to happen in the old days or whatever. I guess it's like similar to how boomers felt or whatever, and it's really really uncommon today. So I've had people like, yeah, don't share that with the young
yep.
guys because you're like they can't, that's not accessible to them now.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's, I think that there might actually be some carryover now that I think about it, um, on how we feel about that kind of stuff and the realities that we face on that versus, some of these people who are coming to either Orthodoxy or Catholicism. And I was kind of starting to tease this out with some folks in a group chat the other day of, hey, like, if this was 100 years ago, would we really even have a choice? Like, there's a good chance you could have grown up in some county in the US that had a church. And the next nearest one was farther than you could ever hope to travel in a day, or even however many days you could possibly maybe to afford to get away from whatever sustenance living you had. And we would not have had the luxury or the choice of Orthodoxy or Catholicism. You would have just been stuck in whatever you were born
Right.
with. And I think that that's lost on some folks in two ways. One, quit giving everybody so hard of a time if they end up going the other side of the schism. That's one, because nobody would have had to make the choice until very recently in history, except for a very small handful of
And
people.
even then, that person's story is not written. I mean, I know people that have
Exactly.
have become Catholic and then become Orthodox. I know a few catechumen that left for Rome, and I mean they're like 23. I mean their story's
Yep.
not written.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that's the other side of it, is like, one, you need to be gentle with the people who fell to the other side. Two, you need to be praying hard and considering carefully whether you're in the right place. Because at the end of the day, any of us who are converts, any of us who were born in today's internet age and made the choice between East and West, between Rome and the other the other four jurisdictions of the Pentargate, or anything that has come since, we are to some degree leaning on our own understanding, and we can hope and pray that it's more the guiding of the Holy Spirit, and that we have been, that we're in the right place and we're pursuing the truth faithfully. But at the end of the day, like, some of my Protestant friends have said, hey man, look, you think that you've got this thing dead certain, but so do the Roman Catholic guys. If I have to choose between Rome or the rest of y'all, I'm making that choice in a very real way. How is that not leaning on my own understanding,
Right.
but remaining a Protestant is? And I don't think that that's something that has been addressed in a sincere way by hardly anybody these days.
Right. I mean that sounds like we're getting to the existential versus normative authority distinction. With either way, somebody has to look at the evidence and be convinced one way or the other, whether it's Rome or Orthodoxy. And the question would be which side of the schism was the authentic church at the time of the schism? Which one is holding true to the traditions of the apostles or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when you have multiple pretty reasonable claimants to a particular type of authority, or whatever else, it's not like Rome doesn't have a case. I don't think that their case bears out. I don't think that
Agreed.
however many evidences and pope-splaining contrivances they come up with, that they can say that their side is right. However much I love my buddies that have gone that way. But at the end of the day, it's not like there's not some vast body of deeply and carefully thought out arguments being made by people who very sincerely were seeking Christ. And you know what? Some of us are in spiritual delusion one way or the other. And I hope that I'm on the right side of that. But I'm sure not going to stop praying about it. I'm definitely going to continue to, try to reach across the aisle to the folks that went the other way in love and charity. Because
like
I
you
do
said
think
earlier, you mentioned not going so far to that you fall into ecumenism.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah. But you have to at least try to be somewhere more reasonable than just demonizing them. And thankfully, I don't see this very often, but every once in a while in the conversations that I see, especially online, there can be this tendency for people to say, you just don't believe this side. You're not on my side because you just can't admit that you're wrong. I think there's a lot of people who would admit it if they thought they were wrong. They're perfectly humble, wonderful people, but they're just genuinely convinced. And it doesn't help that, right now I'm I don't have my camera on because I'm trying not to be visually distracting from what we're talking about. But the less elements of humanity that you have in a conversation, the easier it is for it to go sideways. So at least we're hearing each other's voice. People can see your face, and so there's a certain element of that that at least kind of safeguards against some of the worst possible misunderstandings or whatever else. But you have these guys that are interacting in a comment thread, and there's no tone, there's no facial expression, nothing. And it's so easy to
And
take the
we've
worst
all
possible
had
read.
times where you make a comment that's like a joke or meant to have like be made in levity or whatever, and people take it totally not the way you're intending. We've all had that.
Absolutely. And that's one of those things that it's funny. I don't remember where I heard it, but I've heard that Saint Lazarus, after he was raised from the dead,
Yep.
to the day that he died, he only ever smiled and chuckled once, and it was when he saw somebody stealing a jar made of clay, and he said, "Ha, clay stealing clay." That's the only thing that made this
Yeah.
dude like laugh or smile after having seen the other side with his own two eyes. And I think that the calls to be sober minded and serious are definitely something that I and others could do to take a little bit more into consideration. um I don't know about you, I'm no saint. I honestly hope to goodness that I am not remembered, because I don't think it would be for good stuff. um Hopefully it would be, but because of that, I look at some of the jokes that I tell, some of the things that I laugh at, some of the things that I say to people, and it's like, man, you know, how did that glorify Christ? Did that bring somebody joy, or did it just cause somebody to fall into haughtiness or vainglory because they're on my side? Or did it injure somebody on that I was making the joke at their expense, however pithy it might have been, that now they're not gonna look any further into orthodoxy because I was an asshole.
Right. I mean it's something I'm still navigating. Like, what does the role of comedy and like trying to be lighthearted, trying to make jokes, trying to write jokes while still glorifying God, not stepping over any lines or sinning while you're trying to, whether it's just having fun with your dude friends or trying to write something that's comedic. I think that it can be done, but I definitely think it's something that has to be navigated. It's not clear cut, and you have
Hmm.
to have the humility to be willing to you have to be able to hear when people are saying that you went over some kind of line or that you went too
Hmm.
far, and I mean, because people can say that and maybe you didn't actually go over the line, but maybe you
Hmm.
totally did. So it's just one of those, you're only
Yeah.
looking at it from your own perspective, and you have
Right.
other people to help hedge you in,
Oh
and
yeah.
you're
Well,
relying on them, right?
and there's definitely times that you'll have people that like whatever you said was totally fine, and they're just going to like paint it in the absolute
Right.
worst possible light
Well, yeah, I've
just
seen that.
just
Yeah,
because, right?
I've seen
You
somebody
know,
say like a harmless joke, and people I don't know, what do people call it, piety sailing or whatever, where
right.
I mean, I've seen people be extreme. Like, I mean, there's a lot of old people at my parish. We actually have a
Hmm.
lot of
Hmm.
boomer converts. Like, there was probably a whole year where
Yeah.
like twice a week, once a week, like a new old lady or old dude or old couple would just show up and then they become catechumens. And we have a lot of old people, and I'll be at like a study group, and they'll be like, they'll just, it's kind of like puritanical kind of stuff. Like, oh, we shouldn't watch any
Right.
movies. I'm like, shouldn't watch any movies? And a lot of time it comes down to, I feel like they feel, and maybe it's just where they're at in their life or their spiritual development, that it's not beneficial for them to watch movies or participate in certain art forms or whatever. And I see them blanket across other people, like prescribing it to other people. And maybe, yeah, we should watch less movies and be more careful of what we filter, our filter that lets things in. But I just don't see that as a prescription towards everybody. Like, I mean, they would say like you shouldn't watch Lord of the Rings or something like that. My wife and I are still gonna have Lord of the Rings marathons like once a year.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely get that, and you definitely, it's kind of funny, we like to kind of point a finger at the Protestants and the evangelicals and say you're just quote mining the Bible when you use your proof texting, and then we turn around and we do the same thing with the fathers.
Yep.
I know I've been guilty of it, and one of the ones that people will do that with is Saint John Chrysostom talking about the theater, lacking the
Right.
context that like no,
The pitch
this
of
was like
incense.
this was a live action pornographic performance. Like these people were not just actors. Like he wasn't saying that the problem was that they were, putting on a show. The problem was that these actors often were moonlighting and making their real money as prostitutes, and it's like those things are context that people are missing. And it's something that we all got to kind of grow out of. I don't know if I ever
It's the
will.
phronema. It's acquiring the phronema because it's not
Yeah.
people coming from legalistic heterodoxy will confuse orthodoxy as legalistic, or they'll bring baggage of legalism in,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you have to understand like the concept of akrivia and economia, that there's the rules and then there's the economy, there's the
Hmm.
allowances, you could say, and that everybody has their own path and things that they like. If somebody's an alcoholic, they shouldn't touch alcohol, but that's not a prescription for everybody.
Right. Well, and there is something to be said for yielding to the weaker brother and all that.
Agreed.
But it is funny. We're sitting here and you and I are throwing back and forth these terms, akrivia and economia and phronema and all this. And I understand why those terms get used. They are technical terms. There's a time and a place to talk about the hypostasis and the nous and all this other stuff. Um, but, there are times that I kind of wonder. We're in an English speaking country, and it's important to be able to dump some of the baggage that people might associate with some of the terms that you might use to express those things in English.
Right.
Like, for example, if you were to say phronema in English, it might come across as something along the lines of like the life and heart of orthodoxy,
Right.
the living
Or like,
heart,
or
or
akrivia and economy is like the rule and the exceptions to the rule. Or
exactly. And it's, like, do we gain more by using a technical term that we're going to have to explain with those other words anyway, than if we were to make more of a point of coming at it with plain English from the get-go
I think it
and
depends on
just
the
taking the
setting
time?
and the audience, because
For sure.
like when you listen to a debate, there are philosophical terms that are very useful, and it's like shorthand. Like if you can
Hmm.
say, ontological and epistemology and all these words that a lot of
Right.
people don't know what they mean, it's faster, and you can have a faster conversation using those shorthands than you can with
True.
explaining them. And there's times where it's just you lower it down to explaining. You use the more layman terms with
Right.
somebody.
Well, what's irritating to me though is that sometimes I will see this, and I don't know, maybe I am just not catching myself doing it, but I am, where somebody will reject a perfectly reasonable uh, explanation of something just because somebody said it in plain English, and because they used the English term for it, they paint whatever baggage they might be thinking of from whatever tradition onto whatever the person's saying, when they might have actually been catching on, like they might have been getting it right, because there can be this reactionary anti-Westernism,
Well,
this
even maybe there's that. But I mean, like my little brother is an atheist, and he was
mhm,
going through a lot of stuff, and I was trying to tell him about some prescriptions of the fathers and like vainglory and self love and all this stuff, and I mentioned that's in our worldview that self-love is something that we need to overcome. And he heard that and he had like a visceral reaction of like, cause he thinks he's like the treat yourself, like you need to love yourself kind of guy. And I'm like, well, that's your definition of self-love isn't exactly the way I'm using it. Like, picture somebody who's in love with themselves and they to the detriment of all of them around, everyone around them. And that everything is just self-focused. It's like you are collapsing in on yourself.
Yep. 100%.
So, well, Manuel says, at the risk of butchering it, I like how Father Peter here has clarified economia isn't an exception, but the way it is appropriately applied to each case. In other words, you always have to apply the economia. And even me trying to use a layman term of like rule and exception to the rule as like a shorthand English isn't the exact concept, because you have to apply the exception to the rule. It's not just the thief on the cross, but that's an exception to the rule. It's a little more deeper of a concept of that, and that's where it can be useful. Like we can have English words for the nous, like the mind or the eyes of the heart, but we have other conceptions of what the mind is, like your intellect and your mind's eye and all these things that aren't exactly what the fathers are referring to my understanding.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the challenges is like, I talked to some of my traditional Latin mass type buddies that are Latin essentialists. And I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? Why?
That's when I hear
why Latin?
Talk to people like that. It's like, I don't know. I have sympathy because they're more traditional. They're trying to hold to like an older form of Catholicism that, to my understanding, isn't what the Vatican is teaching and is like a Vatican's official position, right?
Right. Well, what's interesting though, on the linguistic note, is that I'm like, guys, what's the deal with the Latin? And one of the arguments that they make, and this is lay people, so I'm not saying this is like the official teaching of the Catholic Church or anything, but the lay understanding of why the Latin is important for those who care about it is they say, oh, it's a dead language. It's a dead language, and so it just means whatever it meant back then, and it can't be misconstrued. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, guys, if you say a bunch of stuff to me in Latin and then I don't speak Latin and you then explain to me what the Latin was, we're right back in the vernacular.
Right.
And they're like, well, yeah, but still. And I'm like, okay. And furthermore, if I'm learning Latin today, I have to go through that same process for every Latin word that I learn. It's all going to have connotations from where I'm at. I forget who it is, but there's a great quote. There is no view from nowhere. And I think that sometimes that gets lost on people that, they assume, oh yeah, I read Father so-and-so or Saint so-and-so from the mid 200s. And so I know just what the earliest Christians thought or believed. And it's like, okay, bud, like, we're Orthodox here. Like, how was it received?
Were you on Twitter when all the Protestants?
When what?
That a lot of the verbiage was like speaking about the Eucharist or different things like that, and they like just were interpreting it from their own perspective.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I didn't catch all that, but I think that kind of thing goes on pretty frequently. What particularly was happening in this instance?
I'd have to try to find it, but I'd have to try to find the canons of Vatican II. But it was something like, it was talking about the Eucharist, but it was a word that they were interpreting to mean something else, or it said like something about it was saying that you can't have communion, you can't have Eucharist, and they thought that.
I don't know if it's your connection or mine, but one of us is rubber banding, brother. I can't understand you.
Gotcha. Let me know if you can hear me.
That's better. Yeah.
So they interpret it as the canon saying that Orthodox can't converse with Protestants, but it was just saying the canon was saying we can't have their communion, we can't co-commune.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, and the one that I see get a lot of play is the Council of or the Confession of Dositheus, right? And there's a particular part in there that I've had flung at me saying, "See, you guys are not supposed to read the Bible in your own language. You guys are forbidden to read the Bible, and that's anti-Christian. That's anti-Christ. So you can't be real Christians." And you go and you look at it, and it says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it says, should every layperson read the Bible in their own language? And again, this is written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Literacy wasn't what it is today, and it's in the midst of the very worst of the earliest major push of sola scriptura, and it basically says, no, the masses shouldn't be reading the Bible at home in their own language because they might misunderstand it,
Right.
and it's spiritually dangerous.
And it's primarily a
And
liturgical text. They're still getting the Bible
Right.
all the time at church.
well, and if you look at it, like you're saying there, it's not that they weren't hearing the scriptures in their own tongue, and what it was really warning against was not them being exposed to the scriptures. That wasn't the problem. The issue was the at home part, the apart from the body part. And maybe that's me giving more credit than is due as somebody who's trying to kind of defend the position, so to speak. But I look at that and I take a pretty plain reading of it and I say, oh, hey, yeah, they're saying it's not smart for us to go off in a corner alone and try to figure out Christianity by ourselves.
I mean, it sounds like he's just reiterating the Epistle of Peter that the Bible is not up to personal interpretation. But with your friends
Right.
saying the Latin stuff can't be misconstrued or misunderstood, that sounds kind of like sola Latin or something. It sounds like how Protestants view
Right.
sola scriptura, that it's self-interpreting. It can't be misinterpreted.
Right, or like Muslims. I see
Yeah.
I see the Latin only stuff and the King James only stuff as being very, very much cut from the same cloth. And I ain't trying to like sling stones at anybody in either camp, and I do think that we can't deny that the King James Bible was the massive literary and linguistic feat that it was. Like, there's nothing that even comes close from that time period, I don't think.
When I get a prayer book that is in like modern English, I still just like glaze over it and do all the these and thines. I like it more.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's something to be said for like elevated language as such. But you can't let that become an idol. You can't. And you can't also let yourself get this, this spiritual delusion that, oh, I'm the special boy that has the special translation in the
Right.
special language, and I understand it. And
Well,
that
I've
makes
heard
me
some
a better Christian.
like Roman Catholic Latin Mass people say that like Latin is special because the demons fear it more, or like the Latin language causes the demons to tremble. I don't really
Yep.
don't understand
Or
that.
I've also heard Latin, Greek, and Hebrew are the only languages that church should be done in because that's what was on the sign on the cross. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, okay, hold up. All right. So tomorrow you guys would all be perfectly happy to go celebrate the traditional Hebrew Mass,
Yeah.
the traditional Greek Mass. Is that something you would
I mean-
actually buckle down for? Like if you were in a different part of the world where that was the dominant language that they had received the gospel in, would you actually go and accept that, or would you still insist on your Latin? And the other side of it is like, okay, guys, come on. Those were the lingua franca of the time and place. If that had happened in, the United States, they would have had it in English, Hick, and Spanish. Like it's not like God specifically was like, yup, hey, Mr. Roman guy who's about to crucify Jesus Christ.
Make sure you use these extra special languages.
Right, exactly. Because if somebody hated God enough or was ignorant enough of who they were killing, to go ahead and do that and to make the sign and nail him up and go through the whole rigmarole, you really think that they were going to listen to God on anything? Now, they were definitely still doing his will, whether they knew it or liked it or not. But it's not like he was, sitting there tapping them on the shoulder saying, hey, you need to make sure you got the syntax and the punctuation there. Like,
Well,
it doesn't work that way.
I've never even heard the argument that those three languages have some special privilege because they were on the sign on the cross.
I have heard it many times.
I mean, I would just go to my typical line of reasoning when I talk to Protestants of, okay, that's your interpretation or that's your prescription. Show me the normative authority throughout time. Like, show me that
Right.
consistently being the case in the first 1,000 years. And even
Yep.
like with the Roman Catholic, it's not their own church's position.
Right. Right.
That's why I get really confused of these Catholics that, because even just today I saw a Catholic that which has an opinion that I agree with. He was talking about the errors of evolution. He was coming out from like a philosophical reason why evolution breaks down. I'm like, I agree with you, but your own church teaches that you don't have to affirm evolution. You don't have to believe in it, but my understanding of their position is that you cannot say that evolution is contrary to the Roman Catholic faith. Like you have to say that it is compatible.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I do know that when I did date a Catholic gal well, actually, I can't even say she was Catholic. Sweet enough gal, wish her the best, but her dad was Catholic. Her mom was like wild Pentecostal. And as far as like what they grew up with, and her dad had remained pretty mainline Catholic, very faithful about it. But her mom had gone more of like the, non-denominational, pretty normie, basically Baptist route. And it was really interesting because her dad, here he is, Mr. Catholic, this and that, great guy. But he believed in evolution 100%, and he was just convinced that that was how God did it.
Right. Well, I mean, that would be what his church is like. Yep, that's fine.
Right. Exactly.
That's, the official teaching.
It was bizarre to me. I was just like, man, like maybe I'm just a simpleton, and I get that we can't just take everything in the Bible, straight as it is in the English and assume that that's it. But it doesn't seem to leave a whole lot of room for that kind of thinking, because all of a sudden you've got a whole lot of death and a whole lot of other stuff before the fall.
Biggest issue. That's the biggest issue from the Orthodox perspective, that death did not exist prior to the fall. So you get like Orthodox guys, you're trying to get it to work of saying like, oh, animal death existed, but it doesn't really make sense. And like, I don't know if you watch Jim Bob, but he has a lot of really good critiques of evolution. And one is, okay, so you're saying eating animals is okay. Like from God's perspective, humans eating animal is fine. Like God says that these are made for you, that you can eat them. And they're like, yes. Okay. So you're telling me that Adam evolved from an animal. So Adam could have eaten his own father and it would not have been morally reprehensible.
Yep. He gets them pretty good with some of those, for sure. Yeah. And I don't know. There's a guy, Will Anselm, on X that I've had the distinct pleasure of getting to know pretty well. He's Roman Catholic, but worked very closely with, I think he said, one of the nuns that was, brought up under Saint Sophronia of Essex. And the guy's been around the block a few times. He's not an ecumenist. Like he's very clear that, hey, we're separated brethren, but we're still bros. We're still separated, but we're still bros.
We're still both trying to our ability to follow Christ in the authentic way. We disagree with what that is.
Right. But he's been doing these live readings of Milton's Paradise Lost. And, they'll read a portion and then they'll discuss it. And it's been a blast. I haven't made it to all of them. due to just, duty and whatever else, but made it to a few. And one of the really interesting things that comes up is I can't tell you how many times that we've been going through a portion of it, and I'm like, hey, that's not in scripture, but I definitely grew up hearing that about
Yep.
Eden or about the fall. And it's funny because when Milton wrote the thing, it was not meant to be a purely religious work, and it certainly was not a theological text. What it was a political, satirical thing, or you could even, stretch and say it was just more purely philosophical. But he was a very politically minded guy, and he was using the characters and archetypes of those scriptural passages to try to work through some of the ideas behind the movement he had been a part of. And people are looking at this thing as something completely different than what it was ever intended to be. And oh man, but it's some wonderful, wonderful conversations. I can't recommend enough if you're able to catch the last couple before it ends. But yeah, man, it's really, really interesting to see how people make all these assumptions about what happened in the garden, that are completely outside of anything that has ever actually been taught by the church, regardless of who you think the church actually is, just because they ran across it somewhere and it sounded right to them.
Or maybe it was in Dante.
Yep, a lot of people get stuff from Dante for sure. It's funny though, because so many people have never read any of this stuff, and I'll throw my hand up there. I can't say that I had ever read Paradise Lost before started going through it with this ex buddy of mine. But like, I've at least made some efforts, mostly thanks to C.S. Lewis, to make a point of reading some of these older things. For me, it's been mostly the church fathers, because I started doing it after I was becoming Orthodox. But reading more of the classics, you would not believe how much stuff is just recycled in modern media in clumsy ways. And it's like, oh, that's the thing from this show that I watched or from this book that I read. And then you realize, oh, they missed the point. And maybe they were using artistic license and turning it on their head. But, it seems like a lot of the times there's stuff where you got some modern scriptwriter who's just they're going looking for gold, and then they're using it in the worst possible ways. And you see that
going from their own
theologically too.
perspective. Do you know Neil Gaiman?
It strikes a bell, but I can't think of where from.
He wrote Good Omens and the American Gods, and
Okay,
pretty prolific.
yeah.
He's a pretty good author. I think he's an atheist, but he does a lot of religious themes. And the biggest critique I have of him after reading a handful of his books is because he has these angel characters, these demon characters, but he doesn't understand the Christian idea of natures, because all of his angels and demons essentially have a human nature. They aren't like what we would call angels and demons. Like, they kind of fill that role, but like his angels can commit evil, and his demons can turn over a new leaf and be good and all this stuff, which to us they don't have a human nature. They have like an individuated angelic nature that's specific for them. Each angel has their own nature. They don't have human nature.
Right. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I've been thinking about maybe trying American Gods, but I've never never had any desire to watch Good Omens, just because I maybe judged it too quickly. But I saw, even just from the commercials, I was like, I can't. I'll just be too irritated. Like,
Yep.
I'm not gonna. It's kind of like trying to watch an action movie or a war movie as somebody whose whole job is to be good at the kinds of things that they do in those, or at least to be familiar enough to not get killed by them.
I mean, that's
Um,
me knowing some MMA and jujitsu and like seeing any fighting
any
going
fight
on. Like
scene.
I see a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you? You're not use your neck. What are you doing?
Right. Well, and then the question becomes, okay, if you're somebody who's kind of in the know on stuff like that, do you just, figure out how to turn off that part of your brain and enjoy the stuff? Do you intentionally go for the extremely outlandish stuff on purpose because it's easier to suspend your disbelief on it? Or do you just give it all up
Or do you
altogether?
go for the stuff that is like highly researched but isn't necessarily good storytelling? There's a genre of sci-fi that's like hard science that's supposed to be like totally
Mm,
rooted in just our understanding of science. Like the guy who wrote The Martian, his whole
mm,
I don't from my understanding he didn't really the story was secondary. He just wanted to tell a space story that was like all the real, astrophysics and stuff that was baked in, not wasn't
mhm.
necessarily about the story, the character arc. That came after him thinking through the logic of the situation.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, but there's definitely definitely a handful of cases where you got somebody who just really nails both.
Mm.
And it's not many. You could probably count it on one hand for any given genre. Um, I would say Heat is a pretty damn good movie, and it has one of the best gunfights ever.
Is that the with
Um,
the I saw it like 2 years ago. Is that like the I remember the gunfight at the like the shipping containers towards the end. I'm trying to remember which
well,
which.
this one ends broad daylight, or the main gunfight that people like from it is broad daylight, and it's them getting away from the bank after they robbed it.
Okay.
Um, and it's not perfect, but some of the cover and move that you see being done is, possibly the among the best that had been done on screen until they did Sicario and all that. Den of Thieves is another good
I
one.
hear so many good things
Um,
about Sicario. I saw it probably when it came out. I was like, I don't know. But everybody since I've watched
mhm.
it says it's really good. So I've wanted to revisit it.
It is really good, but if you're used to a lot of mainstream, like, Marvel crap, uh, it can take a second to adjust to a movie that's done in any other style. Um, you know, there's definitely been a movement lately of, it's not often, but every once in a while, Hollywood has actually been giving us something halfway decent in the last few years. And people just don't even know what to do with it because they're so used to whatever slop has
Yep.
become comfortable for them.
I mean, it's been my opinion for 6 7 years that if you want good entertainment, you have to go back in time. You have to go between the 20s and the 2000s.
Hmm. Yep. One second here.
Yeah, no problem. You still in the chat? Well, Manuel, thank you for the pesos. Once super chat, always super chat. Still not saved though.
I'll find it. Oh goodness, man! I didn't know this was a monetized stream. Good for you, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I mean, I haven't been consistent with it. I had a job that took up my schedule when I normally was streaming, and then I'm
Mm.
just trying to get back into it. But yeah, I mean, people super chat, and I've got a handful of members and everything. So
Oh goodness. Well, I think I may have to call it a night here soon. We're trying to find. Uh, oh, there it is. Here's little man's bottle. So I'm not saying right now, but
yeah, same.
sometime here in a bit.
Next 10 minutes or something. If we stop in the next 10 minutes, I can go help my wife put the kids down.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we already. I kind of missed that because I got sidetracked. One of my shortcomings is that I will see something that I know my wife needs done, and I will do it at the worst possible time, and just get so zoned in on it that I am not helpful on other things that are more time sensitive and
Mm-hmm.
pressing. So, we've all got our faults. There's a couple of mine. Everybody can see I'm human and I bleed like the rest of you. I'm
Punch me,
just
I'll
kidding.
bleed.
Yeah, right. Oh goodness. Yeah, no, I have plenty of faults, and it's funny. Um, this came up the other day, and maybe this would be kind of a neat little thing to hit last before we kind of bounce out of here until next time. Um, there was a conversation about whether it was ever possible to um, mention your own foibles or to say, hey, like I'm just I'm a nobody trying to be the best, Christian or whatever that I can be. Whether it's ever possible to actually say, hey, I'm a lowly nobody and I'm doing my best without it being piety signaling and
It's difficult.
secret vainglory. And I was like, no, I think that it can be done. There's
Yeah.
definitely people who they are just piety signaling to try to have this weird, it's almost like a victim narrative type thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that the people who are able, and I'm not saying that I am, but I sure try to be able to actually see myself as, you know, a pretty serious sinner that desperately needs the help of my Savior, and to be real with people about things that I struggle with, or places where I'm maybe not the best. Um, and I find that in my case, anyway, it seems to work out pretty well in the sense that if it was true and whatnot, then it doesn't matter what people say.
Right.
Um, but if it wasn't true, boy, do I get humbled pretty quick, because there's going to be 15 people ready to sucker punch me and say, you can't actually be humble if you said it.
Yeah.
You're just sharing these, foibles of yours to try to, win pity or sympathy points or whatever. You're not being genuine. You're not being sincere. And it's just kind of funny. It's like, you know what? Maybe it's better to say it even if we don't mean it, so that we can have all the really pious people tell us how impious we are for piety signaling, whether we were or not.
This is, I mean, it's going back to the economia stuff, and just, I think, if you are not going to do something because of temptation, then you're likely not going to be able to do very much, because everything can have a temptation.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's saints that will sound like they're contradicting each other when I don't think they actually are. It's like, one saint will say it's better to not pray if you're just praying vainly. If it's just you're repeating the words and you're just reading. They're not reaching you at all. They're not reaching your heart. And another saint will say you should pray even if it's not reaching your heart. Just keep staying with it, and it'll start to interpenetrate you, and you'll start to imbibe in the prayer. And those sound like exact opposites, but they're different prescriptions for the different spiritual children. And like, I think there's times to, relate to somebody with your own faults, and there's times
Hmm.
where doing that is vainglorious
Oh
or
yeah.
piety signaling, and a lot of it just comes down to your own heart. I mean, because you can one person could do an action, two people could do the same action with totally different hearts behind it, and
Hmm. Absolutely.
we might not even be able to say that one is piety signaling and this one is genuine, because
Hmm.
we don't know their heart, and
Right.
they might not even know their heart. So that's why we self-reflect. That's why we have spiritual fathers in community, because you might not
Hmm.
even realize what you're doing is not coming from the right place.
Yep.
And I mean, that's why at least for me, I would rather say something and be willing to be corrected than keep it silent and never be corrected.
Mm.
And I've had
Yep.
people, because I've been doing the stream and interviewing people and doing shows and trying to do comedy and stuff. And I've had people close to me like, are you going to become prideful? Are you going to let this get to your head? I'm like, if
Hmm.
you see that, let me know. Like, that's
Yeah.
not, I don't want to do this at the detriment of my soul. Obviously, like, if
Right.
my spiritual father knows about this, and I talk to him all the time, and like,
Hmm.
if he tells me to shut everything down and delete everything, okay, yeah,
Yep.
I'll be obedient. But
Hmm.
I think a lot of people see like temptations as causal, and I just
Hmm.
don't see it that way. Like, you could become a really good carpenter or a musician or a painter, and that could lead you to pride. but it doesn't. It's not every painter and musician is prideful.
Right.
So
And we're told
you
to
can
do everything to the best of our ability to the glory
right.
of God. So if you aren't striving to be the best at those things to whatever extent that you can without it being detrimental to your faith, if you're not like pushing those limits in a healthy way, then you're failing just as bad. You're being the unprofitable servant who's
Right. You shouldn't
been
bury the talent God's given you.
exactly.
Just because
You know,
if
and
you
it's
try to use
funny.
it, you might be tempted. Of course, you might be tempted. The devil wants to tempt you any and every way he can.
Right. Well, and you mentioned there this thing of like, oh, your spiritual father knows that you do this, and that's been one of the conversations I've seen go around a lot lately, especially where it regards Mr. Dyer and a few others. Of do they have the blessing to teach? Do they have the blessing to teach? And it's an interesting conundrum because you know you look at somebody like me. I don't have any followers, man. I'm nobody. And I, maybe try to be a little more careful about what I say if I'm straying into the realm of what might be teaching. But at the end of the day, I just tell people, hey, I'm not clergy, go ask a priest.
Right.
But here's my best understanding of it as such, for the sake of just getting through a conversation. But there's a very real question going around of like, how many followers can you have and how much can you say before you need some sort of more particular approval? And that approval, a lot of people have this idea that it's, a one and done thing, like, oh, hey, once a priest gets ordained by his bishop, he can just teach whatever. No, like there's
He's still
there's
accountable.
maintenance. Right. There's still accountability, there's still maintenance, there's still, checking in every now and again and that kind of thing. And can it really be said that any of the online personalities of whatever Christian tradition actually have some sort of official blessing to be teaching and are being regularly monitored? I don't think so. Unless you want to maybe count some of these evangelifish types that
Right.
they're
They're their
teaching
own
on the
authority. Do I want to give myself
right,
authority?
yeah,
Yes, I do. Let's continue giving myself authority. Part
exactly.
of that
Well,
is benefit of the
scripture
doubt.
clearly
Like
means what
I've
scripture clearly
seen
means what I say that it does. So surely I'm in the right?
right. I mean, I've seen evidence that Jay Dyer has blessings from his priest and his bishop. How closely that's monitored, I I don't have access, so I can't say one way or the other, right? But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I
Well,
mean, I
like
benefit of the
I can
doubt,
speak
and
to I can speak to Father Deacon Ananias, who I know personally, and he knows Jay personally. I have seen Father Deacon Ananias in church more times than I could say, and he's a great dude, and he's a very humble, friendly, selfless person who has never done anything wrong to me, and I've never seen him do anything nasty to anybody in person either. And he personally has vouched for Jay and even helped clear up a little bit of a misunderstanding between Jay and myself that happened on X, where he kind of has this default aggression because of all the trolls he deals with.
I haven't really talked about this publicly, and I won't get into too much. But he thought I was somebody else, and he blocked me. And I was like, "Hey, I'm a different dude. I'm
Yeah.
sorry."
Jay or Father Deacon?
Oh, Jay blocked me once, and I got him to unblock me. He thought I was somebody else that like was starting
Yeah.
beef or whatever, and I was like, "Nope, I was not that dude."
Yep. And you got to shrug it off and just keep moving. And
Yeah, I have no ill will towards
it's
him at all. It was a misunderstanding or whatever.
yeah, me too. And it's funny because people take one look at that and they're like, "Oh, look at how nasty this person is." And it's like, "Bro, like, have you walked a mile in his shoes?
Yeah.
Have you seen how many death threats these people get for just like not even the stuff that they should be getting it for, if that even was, if there was anything that they should be getting them for? I'm not saying there is, but just like it's the most dumb surface level, like it was clearly a joke, or it's something that's just, plain simple facts and somebody's mad, like the gender stuff. And it's like, do you really think that you could do any better in this person's shoes?
Right.
you know and if we silence every single person that that is Orthodox or, whatever tradition, if they were to silence every single person who hasn't been to seminary and isn't an ordained minister, then a very important aspect of the discourse would be lost.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, yes, it is important to be able to show somebody, hey, this is the official teaching of the church on this, that, or the other. But there is also a very important aspect for people who are trying to make the choice of which way to go, trying to figure it all out, of being able to actually see, okay, this comes out of the pulpit, this comes out of the written stuff.
Right.
What comes out of the lives of the people? What comes out of the mouths of the lay people?
Right.
And you can't judge the institution solely on that, but it
Well, I think it's
definitely
also just
can't
like a
be ignored.
diagnostics thing, like being able to see
Mhm.
if the lay people are saying something totally off base and they're not being catechized or whatever.
Right.
I think
Yep.
it's important just to have that, like a lifeline of communication of how are
Right.
people receiving the faith and growing in it.
Well, and are the lay people able to talk to each other and maybe point out potential areas where there's issues to one another and work
Right.
through that stuff at their level without clergy always having to be involved? Are they capable of calling each other out and then making an apology? And
Well, I think so, because I see it like literally every week at my parish, like
Right.
coffee hour. If I'm at a table with a catechumen, I'm talking catechesis stuff because that's what the catechumen brings up like every time.
Right. They're asking questions, you're answering questions. A lot of the time the answer is, well, I
Yep.
think it's
Let's
this,
go
but
get the
double check it
subdeacon
with Father.
or
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's great. And it has to happen in the online context too. The simple fact of the matter is that the online world is real in its own way. It's not the same kind of reality, but it is certainly a part of our reality as it continues to
and
develop.
another aspect of that is I see people like slinging mud, and I just
Mhm.
think because like we're especially like Orthodox people like heavily like really harshly critiquing other Orthodox public figures or laymen or whatever, and I
Mhm.
think like if that person was at your parish, would you do the equivalent of private messaging them? Would you just go to them and say, hey, I heard you say this or I heard this about you, can we talk? Would you actually go to them instead of like in like the coffee hall? Would you make a scene in front of people or whatever?
Right. Or would you actually walk up to this person and the first words out of your mouth to this person that you've never met be the first thing that you said to somebody in a comment, or the fifth or the sixth or hundredth or
Right.
whatever? Like, would you actually treat a real human being this way in person?
Right.
And
There's
I think
also the
that
weird
kind of
aspect
helps.
of like the parasocial relationships people have. Like there's,
Mm-hmm. Oh
however
yeah.
many tens of thousand young men that know Jay and know things about him because they've watched him as a personality. But Jay
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know, like if they reach out to Jay or feel like they really know Jay or whatever, Jay doesn't know you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a
Right.
lopsided
Right.
conversation that's happening.
Yep, and he can't tell whether you're the genuinely nice person who's trying to send him a birthday cake, or if you're the person who's trying to send him something that would be dangerous to him.
Right.
If you're, like, he's got to be careful. And maybe we all should be more careful in some ways. But one of the things that my wife and I do over on X, if you're ever able to get spaces to work, is as janky as
Probably
they
work
can
on my
be
phone.
sometimes. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to jump in with us, you'll hear us working with the kids. You'll hear us doing dishes and sweeping floors and whatever else. Like, we try to kind of break down that wall a little bit, by just doing life, just like if we were to have somebody over. Like, yeah, there's a time and a place to have a special, you know, aspect to a party or a dinner or something,
Yeah.
where you do kind of focus in. But what we have found is that there's definitely a lot of people out there who are hungry to be able to just have the type of conversation that you have if you pop in at your friend's house,
Yeah.
while life is still going on. And that's what I think, we're trying to bring that to the table, but we need more folks like you. I heard your little one a little bit in the background there, where it's like, oh, yep, baby's crying in the background. They're probably not being tortured to death. They probably just need a bottle or a diaper. Oh,
Yeah, or they're
yep,
teething, or
yep, I can hear the wet wipe thing, and that crinkling might be a little bit annoying, but I know that somebody's taking care of their kid. Um, and we have to balance it with being present with our family, but creating that living room feel and whatnot, it changes the dynamic of the conversations that we have with folks. So I hope that you're able to make it to
yeah,
one of these days.
I'm gonna have a
But
pretty open schedule. I'm self-employed now, so
mhm,
unless I've got something going on with family, church, or I'm just really focused on getting a project done, then
mhm,
I'm usually pretty free.
awesome. Well, we look forward to it, and it's been a great conversation, man. I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better if
Yeah,
we're
you too,
able
man.
to link up again in the future. So
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you
yeah.
reached out when I posted that. And this I gotta say, this is really funny. Well, Manuel, I'm so fake. I probably would not give money in person to any streamer. Can you? If we went really far with that analogy, like how is? Can you imagine Jay? Would you give Jay that $100 super chat in person? Like, come on, be honest.
Now that is funny. That is hilarious. Yeah, I can just imagine. Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, if Jay was doing what Jay does in person, people do pay for tickets or they, make donations. So I guess there's something to that. And I was just seeing something today. I won't say what church, but a parish that we have attended in the past, and I'm still part of the men's group chat. For the sake of being able to keep up with prayer requests, one of the things that came up was, I forget the technical term, but basically monetary gifts given to clergy, choir
Mm,
masters, other people that are serving a function at the church, when you are having them go above and beyond that they are already probably
right.
doing.
I heard someone
So,
ask, like, do I need to pay my priest to come do a house blessing? I'm like, I never even thought of that. I mean, I don't know. I don't
right,
know. I
and
usually ask if they're hungry or want coffee or something, but I've never thought to like
mhm,
compensate them.
right, and I hadn't either, and that's just one of those convert things of like, oh shoot, I didn't realize like this is something I probably ought to have been doing. Not because you're paying them to do it, they would do it for free if you needed it done and could not pay them or decided not to. But honoring their sacrifice by giving them a gift. And the mentality is like, yeah, there's probably some norms and some numbers were thrown around of like, hey, here's like a ballpark of what is generally done these days for this person doing this role at this event. If you have a wedding, this is a good idea of how much to give to the priest, or to the choir master or whoever. um, but you know I think the mentality should be, well, how generous can I be? And
Right.
you might be the widow with the two mites. You might be the wealthy dude that shows up to a parish that's struggling, and all of a sudden they've got a new building. You never know. I won't I won't say the name or anything, but one of the parishes that we went to, it's actually where we were received into the Orthodox Church. There was a gentleman there who had made quite a name for himself and quite a bit of money in education. And he had this beautiful, massive property out in rural Montana that he had built his dream retirement home in, like this beautiful, I think it was Ionian or something, like an ancient Roman style of architecture.
Mm.
And it's gorgeous. And he just decided, you know what? I think God wants me to give this to the church. I'm just gonna get another place that's closer to town, closer to family, closer to the parish. But this place I'm going to donate to be a monastery. And since then, he and his family, along with the parish, have continued to prepare that place to be a monastery, to be a sort of a center spiritually for Orthodoxy in Montana, Lord willing, down the road. There's no monks there yet, but every year they've got kids going out there and, participating in, kind of like any other uh, project-based summer camp type thing, and doing services daily with, some clergy out there to help run it. And it's this beautiful thing. And, they say that it's hard as passing through the camel passing through the eye of a needle to get to heaven. But if you met this guy, it's like, well, I think he's probably going to make it. And
Yep.
It's not just because he made this, big gift or whatever, which he had the capacity to do. But then you talk to the guy and he is just one of the warmest, nicest, most humble. Like, I never would have known if somebody hadn't told me, type of thing.
Right.
And
That's
so
the temptation thing we're talking about, like money
it is. Yeah.
is a temptation, but you don't it's not causal that you will give into greed.
No, it's not. And, I think part of living well and being good stewards of what God gives us, whether it's our talents or our finances or whatever it might be, is not being afraid or hesitant to use those things in an extravagant manner, not in the sense of like making a big show of it, but in the sense of like going all in, going all out, whatever. Not being afraid to do that because of what people think of us, because that's almost like a pride in and of itself of, oh, well, I wouldn't want anybody to think of me this way. I wouldn't want them to think that I'm showing off with my money when I, out of my own pocket, build a parish hall for the church, or something
Right.
outlandish, right? Or on the flip side of that, oh, well, I don't have enough for it to even make a noticeable difference, so I'm not going to contribute. No, give your two mites, do what you can. You can't make it to services often because you live far away and you're wrangling a bunch of toddlers. Okay, well, make it as often as you can. Bring guests when you come, like.
Right.
Yep.
Definitely. And it's even like, there's lots of places we could go from there too, but I know
Mhm.
you got to get going. And
Yep.
my oldest one's probably already sleeping.
All right. Well, hopefully you're able to go catch some story time or whatever, but it's been a pleasure and we'll look forward to the next time.
Yeah. You have a good night, man. Everybody else, thank you for watching and hope you have a good night as well. All right. Bye, everybody. Oh, I almost did the thing where I left studio and kept the stream running. Remember the time I did that for like 8 hours or whatever? Do y'all remember that? Were you there for the deep lore? I wasn't. I remember I went to the store and then I had checked my phone and Nadeem had called me on Discord like 50 times, like, bro, the stream's still going, bro. And I like came back home. Oh, yep, 8 hours. Oh. Whoops.